You are now tuned in to the GNWY podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for tuning in to this episode of the GNWY podcast. Do not forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things so we can be able to get people's stories out more effectively. And today we have none other than my lifelong friend. I've known you for a minute. You've known, well,
long time.
I've known of you because you were like in. Hold on. Let me do in the introduction. What am I doing? Okay,
That's
so
okay. All right.
If you can, make some noise. Taylor, my man. If you can, make some noise for my good friend, Jerrod, Murr, everybody. Yeah. Once again, I thank you so much for coming through.
Absolutely, brother.
You came all the way down from Tulsa, man.
That's right.
You fought the rain. You fought some car trouble, and you're here.
I'm here. Yes. Nothing will stop this podcast. That's what I say.
Of course.
Generation Y is on a mission.
We are.
And today is, every day matters in that mission. And so today, some days, Jordan, when you're doing something great, you really feel it. It's like, man, I'm on this stage. We're with these students. We're connecting.
Yeah.
I helped that kid today.
Yeah.
Other days, it's like, well, I got my car fixed and I made it to the interview.
Yeah.
Don't discount. No, do not despise the day of small beginnings. Whatever you're doing today, if you're inching forward, you're making progress. And success is forward motion. That's what I feel today. So today, I made it to the interview.
Success is forward motion.
You like that quote?
That was good.
That's a Jerrod Murr original. I don't want to brag.
Is it really?
It is. Oh, I've never read it from anybody else, so I think I'll put my stamp on it.
Anywhere else. That's what's up. I
People
like
ask
that.
me all the time, because I do a lot of writing, podcasting, speaking, and they're like, define success. And you get a lot of great quotes out there.
Right.
But to me, I was asked this probably about 5 years ago, and I said, success is forward motion.
Yeah.
Are you moving? Are you closer to where you want to go today than
Right.
yesterday? Are you closer this month than last month, this year than last year? Just keep moving forward. You're going to have good days and bad. Nothing rarely works out the way we actually want it to. You know, like if you ever actually had a perfect event, probably not. So was it a successful event? Well, it's toward the direction we want to go. So let's keep moving in that direction.
That's amazing, man. That was actually our very first shirt as Generation Y. It was just called Forward.
There you go.
That's
amazing.
Amazing. Yeah.
Perfect. Some could say prophetic. That's it.
That's
Let's do
wild, dude. Yeah. So for one, I've seen you since I was like in youth group. Man.
I've seen you in many fine art stages.
Yes, man. And so we've been through it, man. And I love seeing you. From whenever you were a youth pastor and to where you're at now, and you're accomplishing some amazing things. And so, first of all, let's go back, man. Okay. Obviously we're going to get to here, where you're at now, but you used to be a youth pastor. Yes.
I did.
And what started all that, man? How did you want to become a youth pastor?
Oh my goodness. You're going way back,
I'm
Jordan.
taking
Holy
it back,
smokes.
dude.
We got 11 hours on the card. You really meant let's take all 11 hours. I thought, okay, yes.
People in Paradigm Shift think that they know you, bro, but they don't know Jerrod Murr like I know Jerrod Murr.
The short version of a 40-year history is, I felt called by God to be in ministry of some kind when I was in 8th grade. I was actually I was in church, little bitty church I grew up in, and there was this elderly gentleman, patron saint, like he's just a man of God. He was probably 90 years old.
George Washington type.
Seriously, yes. Like this man has been preaching longer than you and I have been alive, kind of guy.
Yeah.
And really, that's just an awesome man, a good man. And he was preaching that Sunday.
Yeah.
And I really felt the Lord impress upon my heart that should be you up there. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. And I still, truthfully, don't know what it all means.
Right.
But that should be you. So I interpreted that as just a kid, as preaching, teaching, but also like, just lifelong example. Try to just be, if I could get that, kind of follow me as I follow Christ, which is a lofty goal. Yeah. But that was it. So 8th grade. So that's the actual origin story. And then the shorter version is, man, I just kept one foot in front of the other. I think the will of God is very broad. Yeah. I think that sometimes, especially as a believer, I can want God to tell me something very specific, like, go to Walmart tomorrow at 3:00 and there will be a man there, speak with him. And that's kind of what I want, especially as a young person.
I've never had that happen yet, man.
I have not. I'm not. And so I've decided, actually, as much as we think God works like that, I think he doesn't work like that more often. I think that's real. I think it's like, well, what then is the call of God on my life? I think it's super broad. Yeah. Like super, super broad. Does it align with the word of God? Yeah. Does it glorify God? Yeah. Those are really the only two criteria. Yeah. Outside of that, I would say you can pretty much do whatever you want to do as long as you're doing those two things.
I think you just got to be ready.
I think so too.
For any experience or any encounter.
Well,
you know
I think,
what I'm saying?
absolutely. I think you got to be ready, and I think you just got to go. Like at the end, and sometimes you're going to miss, sometimes you're not, but it's like at the end of my life, I believe biblically, I'm going to show up at the pearly gates, and it's well done, thou good and faithful servant. That's it. That's the criteria. That's what I'm looking for. That's what I want to hear. That is the goal.
Right,
well done, thou good and faithful servant. You're going to hear one or two things. You're going to hear that, or you're going to hear, depart from me, I never knew you.
Just a lever going.
And then you're down. So it says, and then I want to hear that, and I'm like, those are two very broad statements.
Right,
so I don't think it's going to be like, Lord, here I am. How did I do? And he's going to go, well, when you were 20 years old, I really wanted you to be the youth pastor in Mounds, Oklahoma, not Beggs, Oklahoma. What? That's ridiculous. But that's kind of how we think of it. Like, oh, do I serve at this church or that church? Who cares?
Dude.
I don't think God cares. You're serving people. Do I go full-time ministry or not? Do you think God cares what's on the paycheck? I don't think he cares whatsoever. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, well, you got paid by a church, you got paid by Walmart. Who cares? Just serve God. Like, all of those details that we think, even like, even some of the things I used to preach and teach and think, I'm like, what does it mean to be called into ministry? You know, we used to I'm thinking of like youth camp days and big stuff, and like this kid feels called to full-time ministry. Yeah. I'm like, if you don't feel called to full-time ministry, what are you in? Part-time sin? Like, hey, I want to go. Is there a part-time Christianity? You know, Francis Chan does a great job of talking about like, man, Christianity is an all or nothing proposition. Yeah. There is no middle ground. It's like either I am devoted to Christ, following him, doing the best I can. It doesn't mean we're perfect. There's no such thing as a perfect Christian. Of course. But it means that I'm bought in. Yeah. I'm on the team. I am a lifelong believer, follower, fan of Jesus Christ. Definitely. There's not this middle ground. And so that's where even like full-time ministry, it's like, oh man, I feel like I'm called to full-time ministry. I'm like, yeah, you signed up for that when you gave your life to Christ.
Right. Exactly.
So that's where I am.
I was in a college ministry one time, and the guy that was speaking said something that just has stuck with me for a long time. Is like a lot of the things that we read in the Word and everything like that. If it's obvious and it's like in the Bible, you're already called to it, so you don't have to pray about it.
Exactly.
You shouldn't have to pray about a lot of things because you're already should be doing whatever you're being called to do. Yep. Within what God has called you to.
Yeah, so, I love that.
So yeah, you shouldn't have to pray about much, to be honest.
No.
Just showing your appreciation and worship and gratitude toward God.
That's
you know what I'm saying? Anyway, so that's what stuck with me. So,
I love it. Well, I didn't know we were going to preach right off the bat,
man,
Jordan.
Neither did I.
You're getting me going. All right.
Yeah. So, but
I should have brought my word for today. I'm feeling good.
But you came through, man, and like I've seen you, all throughout, your years of your ministry, And then I've had this question for a while since I've seen that you started Paradigm
By the way,
Shift.
where do you want me to look? I mean, we're live recording, but where do you want me to look?
We're talking
should
to
I,
each other,
Should I just look at you and my man over there? This is like the most professional setup I've ever had. You got Taylor over there running the show. I got cameras. I'm like, man.
Taylor Moore.
Oprah ain't got nothing on Gen Y.
Bro, you come through, man. You already know.
I know.
Straight facts.
This is Rose Records, man. Taylor Moore, we really come with it.
All right. So when I drop my LP, I can come here to record it. Is that what you're telling me?
Of course,
100%.
Yes.
My man.
Do you already got some tracks?
I can spit a little bit, Jordan.
Really?
Hey.
I didn't know about this.
Hey, I don't want you to lose the question that you wanted to ask, but yes, I mean, I
will keep this question.
I was
now
prepared
that we are off
to
track,
Gen Y.
and I want.
You know what I'm saying? You don't have to ask why. All you got to do is try. It doesn't mean you're going to get it, but it means you're going to bet it with everything we got. I'm getting better every day because I show up and I slay. It doesn't matter if it's big or little because that's what I'm getting. I don't want to be bitter. I want to be better. That was just off the top of my head. See what I'm saying? Now, I didn't even plan that. You didn't ask that, but that's what I gave. Praise Jesus. All right, sorry. There you go.
Press all the buttons.
Oh my goodness! Let's go!
You see what I'm saying?
I haven't had somebody come through and
This
just
has never
freestyle.
Well, do not be deceived by outward appearance, thus saith the Lord. Look at the heart. Do not judge me by the tone of my skin or the height of that I have or the lack of dope clothes. No way. I mean, this looks old and broke.
Not at all.
But it's not. It's no joke.
That's what's up. I wish I was in your youth group so bad, man.
I was just silly. Just tons and tons of silly. Right, what I used to have fun though is I used to do these rap battles. In all seriousness. Yeah, like silly. I'm talking like the whitest white boy rap out of all time. I'm talking about like church camp, like Turner Falls, 1999, 2002.
DC talk.
But I would just roast these guys, my youth guys. You know what I'm saying? Talking like, for those of you who ever been to youth camp, it's like that. Okay, the day's over. We're all in the bunks, showered up, and it's like we're trying to go to sleep. And these guys would be, just these rap battles. And all they do is just great because we're just roasting each other.
Right.
It was fun. It was great. It was just permission for me to roast
like
them.
a lot of. Yes. I think if I was ever a youth pastor, that's all I would be doing.
It was great.
Just roasting kids. Yeah. And kids these days are sensitive, man.
I know.
It's
Tell
hard.
me about it. I don't think I could do it. It's a good thing I came up when I did.
Right.
Because I would just call them out from the stage.
Yeah.
Old school style.
Yeah, definitely. If you do that now, it's just instant tears, dude. Yeah.
I know.
Or a bunch of calls from your mom.
No doubt.
That's wild. But man, I had the question. Okay, so whenever I was in youth group, were you the one that started the shirts?
Absolutely.
Like
you know it, baby.
See, this is how I know stuff. I remember.
You do. That's
paradigm
impressive.
shift, dude.
That's right.
Y'all need to know. Okay, so Jerrod Murr started this
believing
campaign.
in a better way. Believing in a better way.
Okay,
that was the campaign.
And
we were trying to sell
shirt,
100,000 T-shirts to raise money for an orphanage.
But each shirt had a different number.
It did. Each shirt had a different number. So it was like the idea was I started at number 1, and it was like the idea was on your shirt.
Did you
it
have
said
the one?
like. No, I sold it. I should have. Everybody asked me, "Did you keep the cool numbers?" Like, no, I sold them. I was trying to make money. I was trying to raise money for this orphanage.
Okay.
But it said so on the back of the shirt, it said number 572, believing in a better way.
Yeah.
And then the front, it was a design that we had about the power of unity and this kind of thing. Yeah, that was it.
That's
actually so that would have been my segue actually into what I'm doing now. So when I was youth pastor at Capitol Hill, Assembly of God here in Oklahoma City, and I was very lethargic in my faith.
Okay.
I had not walked away from God by any stretch, and I wasn't doing anything that I felt like I shouldn't be doing.
Yeah.
But I was very corporate when it came to ministry, not overtly or intentionally, but it was like, okay, I was a youth pastor in little old Muskogee, Oklahoma. I did pretty well with that youth ministry, grew it. We had a lot of kids. And then went to Capitol Hill, basically, okay, larger church, larger city, they attracted me. I was like, okay, if I want to, I'm pretty well known within the denomination. And at that time, and it was like, I could probably go pastor a church in a couple of years, maybe even pastor a big church one day. I was like, okay. And I realized at the time, I was like, I don't need Jesus to run this youth ministry. Mm-hmm. And that was a super scary proposition. I didn't have that ideology. I wasn't hubris in that. I just realized I may be really good at running a ministry more than I am following God.
That's a trap people get.
It is because I was like, okay, I know
Yeah.
how to do it. I can get a crowd of kids. I can, like I said, I can be pretty good on a microphone.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's not what I want to do. So I prayed hard. And at that time, the Holy Spirit really opened up Matthew chapter 25 to me in a whole new way. And there are 3 parables in Matthew chapter 25, and it's a parable of the 10 virgins. It's a parable of the sheep and the goats, and it's a parable of the talents, back to back to back. That's Matthew 25.
Yeah, right.
And so 10 virgins is all about urgency. Talents is all about your gifts, your service, stewarding it. Exactly, good word. And then the sheep and the goats.
Yeah.
And really the ultimate, like we started this conversation with, where are you going to be at the end? And really, as I read that, I was like, okay, I don't have much urgency in my life. I don't operate with a daily, what is God calling me to? Because I don't need faith. There's none. I wake up, I go to my office at the church, I plan the Wednesday night, I go to schools, I do this thing, boom. I don't need faith. There's man, if God doesn't show up today,
there's no struggle.
There's no struggle. There's no faith needed.
Right.
And then the parable of the talents, as I read that, I was like, man, I've got to be, if I am not burying we are all burying. I'm like, we're just doing nothing. I'd go to youth, networking events. It's like, what are we doing? We're all sitting around drinking coffee, talking about whatever we're going to do this Wednesday night. I was just like, this is pathetic. Not to throw anybody else out. I was just like myself. I'm looking at myself like, this is pathetic. I read the Bible and Hebrews chapter 11, and it's like Moses did this and Abraham and all. And I'm like, and Jerrod drank coffee really well with the other youth pastors. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Jerrod did really well at babysitting those church kids.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. So it was my personal struggle. That's why I use the word lethargic. This is boring. So I started praying, and I started praying more dangerous prayers. And it's not like I'm going out and, doing anything great now. But I recognized I've got to do something different.
Which was a joke, because it is.
And so for me, I said, that's where the T-shirts. All this to say then, those T-shirts, it came about because I was like, I just got to do something about what God's speaking to me. So I took the parable of the talents then literally, and I said, all right, I've got $500 in my bank account. I'm going to go buy some T-shirts. And I sold those T-shirts, and then I'm going to take that money and I'm going to buy some more T-shirts, and I'm going to sell those T-shirts. And then I'm going to use that money and send it to Haiti. I'd gone on a mission trip to Haiti in 2006.
Yeah.
And so it was like, well, I didn't work for them. I wasn't hired by them. It was just like, listen, I came to you guys. I believe in what you're doing. I'm going to send you some money.
Yeah.
Great.
Okay.
And that's what it did. And so, but that actually small seed, God then started stirring in me kind of a rise in faith, as silly as it seems, but it was like, actually, oh, you took a risk. Like, oh, I spent some money. I'm stepping out. I'm doing something a little bit extra. And because of that, I ended up stepping away from full-time paid ministry.
Yeah.
And in stepping away, that's when God really started teaching me about my faith and what I was doing in life. And then that's put me on the trajectory to where the last 10 years, I served at another church in different capacities, but then because of that, got more in the marketplace, and that started Paradigm Shift, which was, now my full-time job. And I stepped into full-time Paradigm Shift in 2015, and man, I'm just loving it. So we do leadership trainings and things like that through Paradigm Shift. But it was really those T-shirts. Funny that you remember that. That's really awesome. And we didn't quite hit 100,000. I'll tell you, the goal is 100,000. No, we sold about 20,000 T-shirts in the end, which was still pretty good.
Yeah.
I'll take it. Once again, that's what I say. That's also where I learned like success is forward motion.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Because I learned that like, sometimes you set a goal, and if you don't achieve that goal, you get frustrated. I'm a big goal setter.
Right.
So I believe in that, but I'm also like, it's okay to be like, well, you know what? 100,000 might have been the wrong number. 20,000, cool. Made some money for that. That missions project, it actually took me to a new place spiritually, took me into a new place in my faith. And so that's where we
awesome,
are.
Man.
You nailed it. I was the T-shirt guy at youth convention and camp and all that kind of stuff.
That's what's up. I thought it was super cool. And then I was, cause I was in a youth group, and then I was like, I was trying to find somebody that had a cool number. I can't remember what it was, but I was like, I'll trade you that shirt for, and I can't remember what I had on me or something, but I was like, I'll trade you that shirt.
I sold some of the better numbers for like, we sold the T-shirts. I think they were like $15, but it was like some I'd try to sell for like $25 or $50 even. Right. I got $100 for one shirt.
Really?
You know which one it was?
What?
665 plus one.
Plus one?
Because I didn't make a 666 shirt. They were like, is somebody really going to have like a 666 on their Christian T-shirt? I was like, all right, I'll call that 665 plus one.
That's hilarious.
And then I had a youth pastor buy it at a convention for like $100.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I like that. But man, that's amazing. I didn't know that was actually the paradigm shift.
It was the paradigm shift for me that
for
God
you,
really used to catalyze.
And is that where
phase.
the name came from for paradigm shift?
Not at all. Sometimes this is a great leadership lesson in of itself. You never know until you try. So I actually, a former business partner, a good friend of mine named Ryan, that we actually started the business together, the official paradigm shift business together.
Yeah.
We were driving down the road. This was way back when, once again, I was still youth pastoring. I was a high school teacher, but I enjoyed doing this stuff on the side. And so like he and I had been hired by this association in Arkansas to come work one of their conferences. Yeah. And I remember, Jordan, we got paid $750.
Nice.
And then we split it. Yeah, it was nice. It was awesome. So we're driving back from Arkansas. I was like, man, we just made $325. That's awesome. Yeah. And it was like, man, people might actually pay us for this. Like it wasn't like, oh, we're going to do this big business thing, but it's like, man, let's kind of do this thing on the side. And as we're driving back, he had started with the name Experiential Adventure because we're experiential-based learners. But I was like, man, we got to change this name. Yeah. That's a mouthful, and nobody knows what it is. Everybody thinks we're like a ropes course or like climbing mountains. I was like, this is a terrible name.
Indiana Jones.
Exactly, Experiential Adventure.
Right.
We'll come to your school or your office. No. So as we're driving down the road back from Arkansas, he says, okay, well, let's just start. If you could name it anything, what would you want to name it? And I said, well, man, I'd call it Paradigm Shift because that's what we're trying to do. And that I'd gotten that just phrase from like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. It's actually a psychologist named, last name of Kuhn, that actually started it years before that. But I was like, that's what we try to do, that we're having to help people see things in new ways. And I was like, but there's no way that name's available. Right. There is no way we can call this Paradigm Shift. I mean, it's way too well known. There's no way. Lo and behold, Google it up. And Paradigm Shift, because it's by state. So we could register in the state of Oklahoma with Paradigm Shift, and there's another Paradigm Shift, but I think it's like a roofing company. So it's by state and by type of work.
Yep.
So there was no other leadership company in Oklahoma doing what we do called Paradigm Shift, and we're like,
that's amazing.
Snatch it,
wow,
take it. So now we are a Paradigm Shift.
That's amazing, dude.
That's right.
Okay,
there you go.
So whenever you first started, were you just slow going into schools first?
Absolutely.
Or, okay.
Yeah, in fact, even more specific than that. So when we started the business, we were working with educational grants. There are a few grants that I love. I've come to be a huge believer, advocate, championing these grants. One's called TRIO. The other's called Gear Up. Yep. TRIO, it's called TRIO because they started with 3 grants, actually. But now there are like 7 grants under this name TRIO. But they help first generation low income students. So these are students who want to go to post-secondary ed in some way, college or trade school or the military, anything basically after high school.
Yeah.
But these are kids that are kind of behind the 8 ball for some way. Low income. They don't have anyone in their home that has gone to a post-secondary education. So they just don't know what to do.
Right.
And these are grants that are designed to help those students navigate the system. Okay. And they're phenomenal. They're wildly successful, and they're essentially guidance counselors that work in different school settings. And so we then were hired by those grants to do like a leadership workshop or help them put on a summer camp. Gotcha. And that's really where we started with these very specific grants.
Is that the one that we did in Texas? What was the one that we did?
That was Gear Up. So Gear Up's a little bit broader. Okay, so yes. So when we started just in TRIO, and I'm talking it's like just a couple of us working with like 30 kids here, and then another grant would hear about us, and another grant like, oh, we saw you over here. Can you come and work with our kids?
Yeah.
And then from that grant, then we heard about Gear Up. Like I was actually friend of a friend. I went and spoke at a small school here in Oklahoma called Hera. And so I go to a keynote for these 8th graders, just kind of my normal stuff. Great. And I just thought the school had brought me in. It's so funny too. Another, like if I'm just dropping these lessons, if you're out there and you want to be an entrepreneur or you see a business opportunity or even ministry, anything, I would encourage you. And every day, if you're like, I just don't know what to do today, learn something that day about your market, about your team, about the people you're working with. Learn something. You can never, even because there are some days it's like, nobody's calling us, nobody's hiring us, nobody's answering my emails, nobody's doing this. I can always learn. I can always get better. Yeah. And so I go to the school and I get finished. They loved it. It was great. I'm walking out, and the lady who was kind of my contact there, she said, well, how long have you been working with Gear Up? And I said, I'm sorry, I don't really know
Who's Gear Up.
Who's Gear Up. I was like, I don't know what Gear Up is. And she's like, well, that's who just hired you. The Gear Up program brought you into the school. And I was like, well, number one, I was kind of embarrassed, but I was also like, I don't really know anything. And they were like, she said, you have got to work with Gear Up. Come to find out, Gear Up is another grant, similar to TRIO, but different. And then, yes, that's the group that we partnered with for the big event down in Texas, like 3,000 kids. It was amazing. It was awesome.
Yeah, man.
So from those beginnings, that's where, with Paradigm Shift, we started in that TRIO world, then we went to Gear Up, and then we started working with schools in general, some other grants, some other programs. Then about 2016, I believe leadership is leadership. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 50 or 500 years old. Yeah. I also believe that leadership is eternal. Like the truths that we're speaking, almost every leadership truth that we speak, you could put a Bible verse to. Yeah. You just change the packaging, the wrapping, like any new book. It's like there's nothing new under the sun. Yeah. So all this stuff changes. So I was like, the stuff that we're talking about with these students, we could also be talking with professionals. So we launched our PS Pro division in 2016. And that was also just, once again, small beginnings. I go down to a conference in Texas, spent all the money I had to get down there. And I was like, dear Lord, please just give me, at least let me make my money back. I psyched myself out. I was freaking out. I was like, we're going to get down there and we're going to have all these people, this competition. We're going to be like little bitty fish in this big pond. And lo and behold, we just had our little table there. We didn't even have a banner. I'm talking like, that's the other thing, man. If I could encourage people out there, don't be ashamed of what you don't have.
That's real.
Thank you. Don't, it's like, hey, we don't have a banner. It's growth mindset. We don't have a banner yet. Right. Hey, we don't have a reputation yet. Well, we haven't worked with many people yet. Be sure you always throw that yet, because that's why success is forward motion, and we're down there, no banner, no nothing. We just got a table, we got the little bitty, the flyer that I printed off at home, that's just there. Here's our little stuff. And, man, had one lady come by and she was like, hey, tell me about this. I told her, and she said, so you do like team building stuff? And I said, yes, ma'am, absolutely. She said, can you come back next week for $2,500? I was like, you betcha. Absolutely, yes. I don't even know who whatever. I was like, yes. So that helped me pay for the booth. And then, Jordan, what's amazing is that's all I got from that event for like 5 months. I mean, nothing. Like I called everybody who stopped by the booth. I'm trying to do the marketing. I'm trying to follow up, just zilch. Then out of nowhere, a lady calls me. Her name is Kathy Hardcastle from a big hospital in Denton, Texas. And she says, hey, Jerrod, I don't know if you remember me, which I didn't. We met at the booth. I said, okay, great. And she said, our president wants to redesign what we're doing for leaders, and I'm soliciting several different organizations, and I'd like you to put in a bid. So I said, okay, great. So I put together this bid and send it to her. And on the follow-up phone call, I asked her, I said, Kathy, can I ask you a question? I said, I don't know if we're going to get chosen or not, but can I ask you what drew you to call me back? Like, just to reach out to us? What was it? And she, you know what she said? She's like, well, your energy is what I remembered from the booth. It wasn't like, we did not, like, if you just compare apples to apples, it's like we are the lowest people here as far as like what we have to offer.
Right.
But she just like, I just remember the way you engaged, the way you talked to everybody, the way you spoke to me, the way you just created conversation, and the energy that you brought is the energy that I want to try to bring to our group. Amazing. And so that contract was the biggest contract that we ever had at the time. It's the first time we ever got a 5-digit contract. It's the first time that we ever had an ongoing contract with a corporate client, and it was big. So, you just never know. Awesome. You never know. And like I said, you can work for months and months and months. We call it the aggregate of marginal gains. It's like, you don't have to, people try to think, you need these big giant leaps. Like, okay, if we could just do this awesome thing, it's like, if I could just get Apple or Google to hire me, if we could just get in the Los Angeles school system and work with all their kids, or, all these big things. It's like, actually, success generally is like a marginal gain today, a little bit closer, a little bit more. And the aggregate, the compound of that is when you really start seeing success.
Yeah, definitely. So, that's amazing, man.
That's it. That's it. So that's Paradigm Shift. So now that's what we're doing. We do leadership trainings all across the globe. Yeah. And we have a lot of great stuff coming up and going on.
That's amazing. So how long has Paradigm Shift been a thing?
Officially since 2010. So we've been since 2010.
10 years.
Yep.
So it's been in 10 years?
Yeah. We've been doing it. So we started it in 2010. It's been my full-time job since 2015.
That's amazing.
So I've been doing it full-time for 7 years.
So you're doing it 5 years for free?
Pretty much. I shouldn't say for free. As a matter of fact, I just got interviewed by a magazine this morning, and they asked me what tips I would give to an upcoming entrepreneur. Yeah. My number one tip is don't quit your day job. Yeah. So when you're starting out, like, because we have an idea, or you've got a product or a service, and you're like, okay, I'm going to do this. Yeah. I would even, before you even get investors, yes, you might need investors at some point, but before you do that, prove your product to the world. So it's like, okay, I was a youth pastor, I was a high school teacher, but I'm doing this on the side. Yeah. And that allows you room to grow. It allows you room to fail, allows you to keep paying your bills, without the pressure. Because trust me, once you dive in and make this your full-time job, it's going to be pressure to pay those bills. So you got to prove it to the world. You also have to prove it to yourself. Yeah. By not quitting your day job, it's like, do I really want to do this full-time? Yeah. Because most people, once their hobby becomes their work, they lose the love for it. This was fun and I loved it when I was doing it on the side. But now that I have to do this every day and I have to do all the other things with it, I don't love this anymore. Exactly. So I did it for 5 years. And that was partly too because I still, like I said, even though God had taken me through this rejuvenation, I loved people and ministry and being there. So that was great. So I wasn't in a hurry to get rid of that. But yeah, for 5 years we did it on the side. We did it for free a lot, but every dime we made during that season basically went right back into building the business. Yep. So I wasn't taking a paycheck. It was like, okay, great. We made $10,000 this year. Awesome. Let's buy an actual booth, buy a banner, buy stuff so that when we go, we can actually have to, well, let's buy a sound system. Okay, let's buy this thing. And then in 2015, we had to take the leap. So 2015 is when we took the leap. And then the last 7 years, it's been full-time gig.
That's wild, dude.
So still hard though.
I feel that, man. That's so we've been a thing for 5 years.
Okay.
So GNWY, and over the past year, has now been full time. So I feel you, dude. Just been in the trenches, man. It's a real thing, though. It's a real thing.
It really is.
But I think you just like you hit it on the head, man. Like, and also just even the life change of people. Mm-hmm. Even people that you're in front of, but then also people that come on your team. Yep. I feel like that's what's helped me gain more passion and more drive to keep going. Yes. Because like it's not just about the organization itself. It's about who's being impacted by it and inside of it. And so I feel you, man. That's amazing. So
Awesome.
Yeah. So man, you wrote a book.
Yes.
Emojis and 8-track. Yes.
That's right. From 8-track to emoji.
From 8-track
you can
to
find it
emoji.
wherever you want to buy books.
And I'm wishing that you brought some.
Well,
but
hey, that's why I'm hustling. That's
Yeah,
what I'm
yeah.
saying, Jordan. I'm
Yes.
hustling. I gave those books out last night. I'm
Right.
giving them away, so I don't even have any on my person.
that's how
right here to
popular
give
they
you.
are, people.
You got to check them out.
Okay?
That's right. You check it out. You got to go.
to check them out. Okay, from emojis to 8-tracks.
That's
Okay?
right.
So what does the title even mean for
All right,
one,
so-
and then we'll get into it.
Now you're a young man, but I know you're well versed. So do you know what
Yes,
an
sir.
8-track is?
Of course.
Okay,
Yes,
all right.
sir.
So
Yeah.
8-tracks for your
Get the
audience.
pencils and everything.
They
Come
are,
on now.
yeah, they are 8-tracks were kind of the precursors to cassettes, which were the precursors to CDs, which were the precursors to our iPods.
Okay, wait. So
You're
I think
thinking of
that
a
I was.
cassette. I didn't want to
doing
call you out
cassette.
like that.
Yeah. No.
I mean, it's your
I
show,
was- bro.
I'm not going to embarrass the host.
I'm gonna do it
you know What I'm
right.
saying? Taylor over there is like laughing at you. I'm like, yeah,
You know
you're
what
not.
the 8-track
You're not
is?
describing
Of course.
it. You're not describing an
Where
8-track.
is it at?
Where?
Yeah, you got one in here.
Wait, no. If
This
you
is
have an
studio.
8-track in here, that'd be amazing.
That'd be super impressive.
Come on,
That
that'd
would be
fire.
super impressive. So
What if he
8-tracks.
just pulled it out?
So 8 if he did like now, truth be told, okay, so it's really fun. So if you just
Yeah.
think of music, okay, the precursor to
course.
those would have been like vinyl records,
Right,
So
right.
8-tracks were they're about this size. I mean, yeah, about like that. Think of like a Nintendo cartridge, like an original Nintendo.
Yeah.
like, that hits you. Yeah, like
course,
an original
of course.
Nintendo,
Yeah,
about
yeah.
that size, but thick, like a thick daddy
3
Nintendo.
Cs, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Because and you used to. Listen to them by sticking them in, and they stuck like halfway in, halfway out of an
Okay.
8-track player.
Yeah.
But people had them in their cars, had them in their houses. Like that's where, like the first car I remember. So the book is about cross-generational leadership.
Okay.
So the book is the idea. And so from 8-track to emojis, that's really what you're leading in today's workforce.
Yeah.
Baby boomers who know what an 8-track is, who probably grew up like their stride, like my dad, when
Yeah.
he was in high school, young adult, like the 8-track was the thing.
Right.
And you carried around, it's funny, Taylor was talking about pulling something gigantic out. Yeah, he had like, and I even have it. It is like an 8-track case that looks like a suitcase.
It's amazing.
But that's what you carry around. You know, and I don't know, you probably had an iPod in high school, but my high school, we had our CD cases. You know what I'm saying? It was like in your car, you would have the
yeah,
CD
yeah.
case.
Yeah,
All
of
right,
course,
yeah.
of course.
Same thing, but they had like an 8-track case, which is about the size of this table, and they're lugging this thing around like a suitcase. So the idea is that's just a fun play on words.
Yeah.
Because we're leading from 8-track to emoji. We're leading people who grew up with that. We're leading people who have no clue what that is. We're leading people who have no idea what it's like. And so in the book, we talk about generational differences and generational consistencies. And the idea being, and we have a lot of fun with it. So it's an easy read. It's a fun read.
Yeah.
I tell people it's a leadership book for everybody because I wrote it very conversationally. There's a lot of fun jokes throughout it. But the idea being, if you want to be a better leader of any age, and this is not for old, it's not a book for older leaders, it's a book for everyone because we show that everyone's a leader. So if you're 20 years old and entering the workforce, I believe you have influence. Leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less.
Yeah.
So you're an influencer. You want to then connect with people of different generations, whether they're millennials, Gen X, whether they're boomers. And if you're a boomer, the same thing could be said in the opposite. So as a leader, that's why we call it cross-generational leadership. How am I connecting? The whole book is kind of built on this quote. I found this when I was doing, the book, again, started organically. I was working, we have an extensive summer staffing program where we hire about 50 to 60 college students every year, train them up, and send them all across the United States.
Yeah.
Leading workshops for high school kids. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, I had that demographic as part of my workforce. I also, with our professional development, where we have average age at that time was like 51 years old. So I was overseeing these two distinct workforces. And I kept hearing stuff like millennials are entitled and young people are this and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, that is just not my experience. And so that's really what started as a keynote. From 8-track to emoji. And I was like, when you're dealing with younger people specifically, because that's where the tension was coming, from older to younger, I was like, a lot of these, we got to debunk these myths. And I started discussing, I do think there is something but I don't think it's entitled. And we talk in the book about 3 trends that we see with upcoming generations, Gen Z and millennials. Number one, people's called anyone younger than them a millennial. Well, that's not true. You know that's not true. I know that's not true. But that's kind of if you're 60, you're like, millennials. Well, actually, you're describing Gen Z. I'm a millennial.
Yeah.
You know, I'm 40 years old. I got 3 kids, a mortgage, own a business, and don't dress cool. I don't think I'm who you're thinking about. You know, I am not who you're describing when you're describing that millennial.
Yeah.
You're describing Gen Z, actually. But let's say people from, let's say, 35 and younger, there are some trends that we see. One is digital nativity, that those young people don't know what it's like to grow up in a world full of cords. I'm a digital immigrant. You know, I remember what it was like to stand up, walk toward the TV, and change the channel. You know, we didn't have a remote control. The second one that we see is emerging adulthood. Now, emerging adulthood is super interesting, and if we got time, I'll tell you real fast. Yeah. So emerging adulthood is this great question of when does someone become an adult? When does someone become an adult? Age has something to do with it. I just said I got 3 kids. I got a 12-year-old, a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old. Yeah. In your mind's eye, you don't immediately go, they're probably, raising themselves at this point. They're fine young adults. No, they're 12 years old, 9 and 4. It's like, okay, so age has something to do with it. But what age do you become an adult? 18? Okay, we kind of draw a line in the sand there.
By society, yeah.
By society, but what about 21? Well, that's also something else. Well, what about 25? Well, okay, now I can rent a car without extra penalty. Yeah, so we got these ages, but they don't really mean a lot.
Get off your parents' insurance.
You get off your parents' insurance at that point.
Yeah.
So, age is something, but it's not everything. Over the course of the last 100 years, and this is super fascinating to me, I found that over the last 100 years, we as a society, American culture, have subconsciously or non-verbally decided there are about 5 rites of passage that if you're doing these, you're an adult. And these are not in stone, and they're certainly debatable. But by and large, we've kind of agreed on it over the last 100 years. And they are graduate, typically high school, maybe college, but graduation. Like graduation says something, you know. And we can even think about the way that we ask kids questions, you know. Oh, what are you going to do now? Oh, stepping into the real world. Next phase of life. Okay, so graduation. Get married, have kids, get a job, buy a house. Those 5 things. So in other words, if someone is doing all 5 of those things, we don't question their adulthood.
Right.
All right. Now here's the catch. Those same 5 were the same for my grandparents. My grandparents, a few years ago, they celebrated their 70th wedding anniversary. My grandma just passed away. She was 93 years old. My papa died a couple of years ago. But they lived in their 90s, right? Yeah. So they got married 75 years ago. They did all 5 in a week. They graduated. Seriously, my grandma graduated. They got married, bought a house. Papa went to work, and my Uncle Johnny was born 9 months later. Now, they got busy. Yeah. Now, emerging adulthood, young people, it takes about 10 years for us to check those things off the list. So we become adults over time. It's not as instantaneous as it was. It's not like I am a child, now I'm an adult. It's like, well, what are you doing? I'm kind of doing this. I'm kind of doing that. You know, I'm thinking about this. Average age to be married now in the United States is 32 years old. So those indicators show us something is changing in society. Yeah. Long story short, what does all that mean? And the last one's instant gratification. All that being said, young people now are impatient, but they are not entitled. So we're pointing things out in the book like, so if we have an impatient workforce, and I know that we are growing impatient as a society, what does that mean for me as a leader? All right, my last thing on the book, Jordan, I got to share with you this quote. You're going to love it. Of
course.
It's going to blow your mind.
It
blew my mind. I read the quote and I was like, for real?
My mind is already blown with the old successes forward motion, but I mean, let's go ahead.
Man, that's all I had to bring today? Oh my gosh. Hey, you got to raise your standard for being impressed.
Let's do it.
All right.
Well,
I thought my freestyle rap.
I was about to say, I think that's whatever.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yeah. Anytime you want me to start again, you tell me. You make like go, Murr. All right, anytime you're down like, man, GNWY, we're going to this school and we're down a player. You know, give me Murr. Just call the bullpen.
Give me Murr.
Right here. All right.
Give me Murr, yes.
All right. So listen to this quote. The children now love luxury. They have bad manners, contempt for authority. They show disrespect for elders and love chatter in the place of exercise. Children are now tyrants, not the servants of their households. They no longer rise when elders enter the room. You know who said that?
You?
Socrates. Socrates. Right. Socrates, the ancient Greek philosopher Socrates. When I read that quote, I was like, you know what? There will always be a generational divide.
No, definitely.
Always.
Yeah.
So right now we're saying the same things that they said 3,000 years ago. Young people these days. Yeah. You know? Like, okay, boomer. It doesn't change. What has to then happen is realize we don't have a generational issue. We have a leadership issue.
100%.
So that's the idea behind the book.
Yeah.
Be a cross-generational leader who says, yes, we have differences. You know, young people these days are different than when I was a kid. Yes, that happens every generation, especially every 2 generations.
Yeah.
It's faster now because of the speed of technology. Technology changes so fast that divide between generations is greater than it ever has been.
Yeah.
But we can't just say, oh, you know what, we don't know what to do these days. We just got to get better leaders. We got to become better leaders.
Yeah.
So check out the book. That's what the book's about.
100%. Yeah, man. That's amazing. Okay. From 8-track.
From 8-track
to emoji. Everybody go check it out. You can get a physical copy, and then you can also probably go to Amazon.
Yeah, you can go to Amazon. You can go to Amazon and get it. If you buy it directly from us, JerrodMurr.co.
You get the bonuses.
You get the bonuses. That's right.
But you don't.
It's a surprise. I don't want to tell you.
Okay,
Some fun little things. All right, some fun little things in the box. JerrodMurr.co. JerrodMurr.co.
Yeah.
Save them for another email or typing.
Of course,
you don't need
just the co, because it's like company.
That's right. That's right. I like it's JerrodMurr.co. You know, we're in this together.
We're in it to go. It's a co-op. Yes. Let's go. Hey, I this is really random and off topic, but kind of at the same time.
I love it.
So whenever we're talking about emojis, okay,
yes.
I've heard that that's low key this generation's hieroglyphics.
Ooh.
Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy.
So
That's
it's like,
deep.
I mean, because you could have a full-blown conversation with emojis.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. Yeah.
Taylor?
Emojis and GIFs.
That's it.
That's all it is now.
It's our
That's
hieroglyphics.
it. It's hieroglyphics.
Isn't that wild?
I like that.
That's dope.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. So it should be
I'm going to steal that. I'm going to use that.
hieroglyphics. From hieroglyphics
to emojis.
8-tracks
Well,
to emoji.
I like that. From 8-track to emoji. My follow-up book will then it'd be from hieroglyphics to GIF.
Take it further back.
That's it.
Take it further back.
Hieroglyph.
Hieroglyph. Yes.
That's it.
That's amazing. That's amazing, dude. I know that you don't have that much time, my man. So
I got all the time you want. We got 10 more hours left on this card. Let's
that's
do
true.
it.
That's true. That's true. But I want to hear, man. For one, I think that Dallas, or I don't think it was Dallas. Where were we at in Texas?
Waco. It was the Waco area.
Where you brought GNWY out and
Yes,
stuff.
absolutely.
Which we were super grateful for. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
And I think that was the one instance that we have had with another organization that we have not met somebody that does stuff like we do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And so especially on the type of scale and impact, because there's so many students and schools and administration that do the same thing, get caught up in bringing the same people out or anything like that. But the cool thing that we have seen is that the people who actually connect with the students first are the ones that are going to change the culture of that school.
Absolutely.
And so I just want to say that I really do appreciate you, man, and what you do with Paradigm Shift, man. So I would love to do more stuff with you, dude.
Let's make it happen. Absolutely.
It's on camera now.
All right. It's it.
Got him. No, man, but for real though, we really do.
I mean, I'm like I said, Taylor heard it. It's also on camera. You
Taylor
know, I'm ready to rap for you. Here I am. That's what I'm saying. Like you know, like
we'll get an intern or something.
If you're waiting on me, you are falling behind. Let's go. I'm already moving.
You're
forward.
right. You're right. What am I doing, dude? That would be amazing. But for real, man. I mean, anything that that y'all are doing, like, because y'all recently, like, I think, like, been blowing up.
We've been busy.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, we've been busy.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
We've been
that's
very
a humble
busy.
way to put it. Yeah.
No, I mean, in all sincerity, a couple things are happening. Number one, man, God is opening up tremendous doors.
Yeah,
for
man.
us. He really is.
That's
and
awesome.
So
and you have 2 locations too, right?
Yeah, we've got
for the people that don't know.
We've got our home offices in humble Muskogee, Oklahoma, my hometown. But we've got Oklahoma City office. We got people who work for us in Indiana. We got people who work for us in Oklahoma City and Muskogee.
We just had Derek here not too long ago.
Derek Sire is like the world's greatest. We've got we got facilitators all across the country, and because of that, our corporate side has really grown and increased. Our educational impact has grown and increased, which allows us to be truly an advocate, a champion, and that's what we hope to do. And you're seeing things like we have launched our official like schools division because it's slightly different. And once again, like I said, every day you can learn something, and the way that we work with the grant is not necessarily the same way that we work with the school district in whole. We really work to understand the needs of that culture, the needs of that group, and meet those needs. So yes, we've been busy, and you know, also we've been allowed over the last few years to just get better on social media. You know what I'm saying? So you're seeing it. So some of the things, it's like, man, we've been doing that for years, but now it's more visible.
Yeah, man.
Because our team has grown, our full-time team has grown, our media and marketing team has grown. And that's been phenomenal. I'm super blessed. I'm super thankful. I stand in awe of it because it was just a couple of guys on the side in the garage hustling, and time flies. It can feel like when you're in the day-to-day, the days are long, but the years are short. And so when you're in the day-to-day, it can feel like, man, are we ever going to break through? Are we ever going to see something? Are we ever going to do this? But, man, if you keep on going, whatever it is that you're doing, whether it is ministry or work or job or life, even in general, if you know the direction you want to go, you keep the values that are important to you, time flies. And before you know it, you'll look back. And I'm sure you do the same thing with GNWY, where you're like, man, I can't believe it's been 4 years, 5 years. We were just doing this, and then some things you're kind of like almost embarrassed about, like, oh gosh, I can't believe we were doing it that way. But it was like, that's what we had to do, and we made it work. And then now,
I used to be a dancer when we first started.
I remember that. That's right. I remember that.
The worst idea we could ever
No, come on. I believe it's in your heart,
It's everything is in my heart, man.
That's
Nothing's in the feet.
I love that. That's a good line. That's a good line.
Yeah, man.
The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. But if you're out there, I want to encourage you, man, keep going.
Yeah.
Because you're going to look back. The rear view mirror can be a beautiful view.
Definitely, man.
So there you go.
It's all about the journey. Yeah, definitely. I love it, man. I appreciate you coming through, man. Is there anything else that you would like to leave for the people? Is there like one quote? I've been dropped a lot of quotes.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. So, but I would like for you to look into this camera and for your outro, if you can, give a one-liner that you live by, that Jerrod Murr lives by.
Oh my goodness.
That brings you a sense of fire, purpose, and then inspire these people with it. And then after that, tell them where they can follow you.
Man, that's pressure. One thing that I live by. There are so many. Okay, if I'm gonna say it for here, in the spirit of GNWY. Okay, I'm gonna do this. This would be depending on the podcast I'll make it. But from what I know of GNWY and the messages you have for young people, for all people really, but the message of hope, the message of self-image and importance and value.
Purpose.
I'm gonna go with that.
Yeah,
Purpose. This is where I'm gonna go with. All right. Everyone has a story. Be the person who listens. That's my drive. Every person is dying to tell their story. Be the person that slows down and listens to other people's stories.
It's good. I love it. Where can people follow you at?
JERROD.co. That's the best one. JerrodMurr.com. JERRODMURR.co. That's got all my socials on there.
Yep.
And then you can find us at Paradigm Shift. We're all over the place. So
Paradigm Shift, and that's just
Thank
one
you very
word.
much.
Okay.
Yep.
No okay or anything.
Paradigm Shift Leadership. That's
Leadership.
it. But we've gotten, actually, you know what? Another good thing, if you just kind of Google up Paradigm Shift, you'll find us. So we've gotten better.
That's how you know you're big
gotten
time.
better. We're not big time yet, but we got enough stuff that it's like, if you Google it up,
when
Paradigm
Google
Shift.
says you're number one, you're
that's
number
it.
one.
We'll get there. You find
Paradigm
us.
Shift. Let's go. Appreciate you, man, for coming through.
Absolutely.
Thank you one more time.
Thank you.
From 8 tracks to emojis. Go follow him on anything and everything. And do not forget to like, rate, review, subscribe, do all of the things so we can get Jerrod Murr's story out and Paradigm Shift and everything that they're doing more effectively.
Tune in next time for the JM versus JM rap battle. I'm laying it down right there. Taylor heard it. I'm laying it down.
Let's go. We'll see you next time.